Single-handedly taking on a ship full of angry pirates wasn't exactly my plan when I woke up, but we'll get to that later. What I originally had in mind was flying out to Microtech to do a little business research, but before that I wanted to stop down in Area 18 to see what was going on in town. Lately there's been this strange group of people gathering under a modern art piece in the middle of town. My neighbors and I call them the Non-Denominational Praisers of the Cogs, or NPCs for short. On my way to the train, something caught my eye. It turned out just to be Dave. I mean, I know the guy works really hard and is tired all the time, but you can't just fall asleep anywhere. But I checked on him just to make sure he was okay before I hopped on the train and headed to the spaceport where my Corsair was waiting for me. I'd been interested in getting into the shipping and industrial business, so I was heading to the city of New Babbage on Microtech to check some commodity and raw material prices and hopefully meet some new business contacts to find out some updates on the newest trade routes and on what was selling lately. Once I arrived though, the city was so pretty I had to do a flyby before I headed to the hangars. I never was one to pass up a visit to a good souvenir shop, so I took a quick peek at what they had before I headed over to the Trade and Development Division to take a look at recent cargo sale trends. And with that and some other business out of the way, it was time for some fun. New Babbage has almost as many stores as it does flakes of snow, and I didn't want to miss one. I even got to visit the Microtech store and check out some of their newest tech, like holoprojectors and data pads and all sorts of handy gear. While I was there, I wanted to pick up one of the new Moby Glass 2s, but I couldn't decide between all the colors. Greg, one of the employees there, helped me find a red one to go with my armor. I'd visited all the shops that I could find and the sun was going down, so I wanted to check out some of New Babbage's famous nightlife. I ended up finding a really cool club and got a drink, or 5. And maybe I enjoyed myself a little bit too much because the last thing I remember is the bartender asking if I was okay before waking up in a strange room. Oh, my head. I got dressed as fast as my hangover would let me because I knew there was one cure for this headache and it was close by. That said, I had to stop and admire the view for a second. Fortunately for me and my hangover, just above the skies of New Babbage is the space station, Port Tressler, home of the best hot dogs in the Stanton system. I decided starting with hydration was a good first step, but just as I was starting to bite into my first double dog, I got an alert on my Moby Glass. It was an emergency contact for anyone able-bodied with a ship and a gun to head to a giant space yacht that had been taken over by pirates. Apparently the crew had escaped, but the security team had stayed behind to try to fight off the pirates. The owner of the yacht said he was worried about sensitive data being stolen. I'm not sure if that meant company secrets or compromising holo images, but I had a different reason for turning down a second double dog and taking the job. But right now though, I had to focus on getting inside and starting my hunt. It didn't take too long to find the first group of pirates. I was trying to be as quiet as I could, but even with a suppressed rifle, after a couple of their friends went down, they started returning fire. I patched myself up as quick as I could and got back in the fight. They were already looking for me, but I was able to work my way through the rest of the Adrium and take out the last of the bad guys. With this area secure, I cleared the bridge and then started my way down to the lower decks in the engineering area, taking out any pirates I found along the way. And I think this is just about where you came in. I found a whole room of them down in the engineering area and started opening fire on them. The first couple went down pretty easy, but then they started firing back, and I got hit hard. As I stumbled past some of the dead security guards in the hallway, I wondered if I was about to join them, and just as I was about to stick myself with a med pen, another pirate walked through the door. Somehow, I managed to get the drop on him, and I kept pushing my way forward to the medical suite I hoped was just ahead. The relief from the med bed was instant. but I didn't have time to lay there marveling at the wonders of modern medicine. I could hear more voices nearby and knew that I had to press on towards the hangar. I knew the one that I dropped behind the door wasn't alone, but come on, this was like a pirate convention in here. The peripheral vision in these helmets must be terrible. These guys had no idea I had just taken out a whole group of their friends, but I guess I can't judge though, because as I grabbed some spare rifle magazines, I didn't hear that door behind me open or who walked through it until I got a back full of lead. Well, I know this drill. Wake up in the last hospital you visited, deal with the flashbacks, head to the store, get a little bit of gear to try to get back to your old body, and then head back into space to the place where you were just given a forcible lead injection. But while I'm on my way back to the space yacht to find myself, let me fill you in on exactly why I'm so bound and determined to see this contract through. With a boat the size of the 890 Jump, the pirates would either sell it to fund more of their criminal activity or, and maybe worse, add it to their fleet. I've heard of groups like this keeping big ships out in deep space as bases, and not just for getting together and singing old sea shanties. I've heard they get up to some dark stuff in those ships, and I'm talking people waking up in tubs of ice missing organs kind of dark. So whether they planned on selling it, using it to run drugs, or worse, this ship in the hands of a pirate group spells bad news for everyone in the Stanton system. After working my way through the ship again, I finally found myself, but I knew that I needed to take out these last couple guys in the hangar. After that was done and I added one more security round for good measure, I made my way back to my body and transferred the gear as quick as I could. It is never not creepy looking at your own dead body, but I couldn't dwell on that. I had to get back in the fight and take out the last of the pirates. As I loaded up my rifle, I knew the last few of them had to be back in the engineering and cargo bay where they were before, so I carefully snuck down the halls, making sure to clear my corners along the way. They were still where I left them, but as I crept down the stairs, one of them spotted me. My armor snagged on a corner as I went for a more defendable position, and suddenly, I found myself back in a very familiar situation. I was hurt, but at least this time I knew where the med bed was, and I didn't run into any company along the way. But I knew I had to act fast because the rest of them would be coming for me now. I'm glad I was clear-headed enough to remember to check my corners. This guy was right outside the med bay, coming from the hangar that I had just cleared. His buddy appeared at the end of the hall behind me, so I dropped him too. I was tired, but I knew I was almost through this. I had to keep pushing. As I sat through the most slow and dramatic death ever, my intel HUD told me that I only had one more enemy left on board. He had to be at the bottom of the stairs, and sure enough, I was able to take him out. But then this guy appeared out of nowhere. I received the notification that the contract was complete, but that last guy meant that some reinforcements had shown up while I was away. I knew I should leave, but A, I wanted to make sure that I had taken all of them out, and B, I wanted to take a few of these guys back to my cutter, which was currently sitting on top of the 890. Now, at this point, it would be fair to ask why I wanted a bunch of dead pirates in my ship, and I will answer that as soon as I take out this last bad guy. You picked the wrong door, buddy. So apparently there are some people out there with more money than sense that are really into pirates and willing to pay a decent amount for mementos, especially if they're from a high-profile group. If I had to guess, hijacking a rich guy's space yacht would make this crew pretty high-profile. So I packed them all maybe a little unceremoniously into the back of my cutter, grabbed what I needed, threw out what I didn't, and headed back to Port Tressler. But as I neared the space station, I heard something knocking around in the back, so I decided to check it out before I landed. Sure enough, I had a stowaway, so I needed to take care of that before I landed. I don't know, I just had a feeling there might be a tiny issue if someone found that in my cargo bay when they were detailing my ship. But now that I had removed that issue, I could land and store the cutter, make sure I didn't have any parking fees, and finally get back to my Corsair so I could head home. Maybe it's just me, but getting shot multiple times, coming back from the dead, and single-handedly taking on a ship full of angry pirates just kind of takes it out of you. I had just walked through the door at home when I received a message from my buddy saying that his leg had gotten stuck in a cargo elevator of a derelict ship that he'd been salvaging and he needed a hand, or as he put it,
you know, with all the technology that you carry, all I need right now is just a really long stick, just so I can press that damn button.
I was dead on my feet, but I couldn't just leave a friend floating out there, so I plotted a course to Arcal 1, and soon enough I found his vulture floating next to the wreck of a constellation. The engine wash from my Corsair may have given the wreck a little nudge, but I didn't think much of it till I got topside and realized now I would have to hit a moving target. Captain Maelstrom was kind enough to send me some footage from his vulture of me face-planting into the Connie a couple times as I tried to get in. I, however, got a first-person view of my face bouncing off the side of the ship before I finally used my tractor beam to pull myself through the airlock. Once I stopped seeing stars inside the ship and got used to gravity again, it was pretty quick and easy to climb down the ladder into the cargo bay and find the button that would set Captain Maelstrom free after being stranded for a couple hours.
Oh, I'm free. I'm just getting out of this damn thing. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm getting out of it.
As soon as I made sure Maelstrom had made it back to his vulture, I immediately headed to the front of the Corsair and wasted no time firing up the quantum drive. After a day like today, the best feeling in the verse is seeing home on the horizon. Special thanks to Captain Maelstrom. You can find him over on Twitch and TikTok, and a huge thanks for everyone's kind words on my last video. If you made it to the end of this one, please leave a like and comment below so you'll know next time I post a Star Citizen story.